Hello MilesPerHr crew and welcome to the inaugural POV Drive Impressions. And what a way to start these off with a 21 Aston Martin Vantage Roadster. The very first thing I'll say about these POV Drive Impressions videos is that they are in no way going to replace the POV test drives and night drives and all the other non-spoken POV videos I do. You guys really like them, and I like filming them for a specific reason. It's to give you experiences behind the wheel of these cars without commentary. So they're sticking around. These drive impressions videos, therefore, are going to be something of a stopgap between those non-spoken POVs and the full-on in-depth reviews where I talk at you for like a half hour going crazy in-depth on cars. These drive impressions are going to be more short and punchy and from-the-hip impressions. And I do hope you'll forgive the bumps and bruises as I get this thing off the ground. I'm still figuring out the process, but I think I'll probably start with something like this. Hey guys, I've got the key to the 21 Aston Martin Vantage Roadster. We're gonna take it for a drive, but first, let's check out how it looks on the outside and inside, which is to say for this car, beautiful. Seriously, gorgeous looking car. Honestly, my only apprehension with the design is around here at the front, because we have the now joked about on the internet Miata Martin ND MX-5 style looking headlights, which sort of just, they temper the excitement of the front end. Because if you take those away, it's sort of like all Vulcan, all awesome, but the shape and placement and size of the headlights for some reason just sort of, they do something not so great to the front end. They really kind of bring it down. But I love that this one here specifically doesn't have the mesh in the grille. It has the slats. More kind of traditional and good looking front end. The sculpting on that hood is beautiful, and we know what's under that hood. It's a 4-liter twin-turbo V8 sourced from Mercedes-AMG. We'll talk more about that in the drive. Getting to the side, it's getting really good now. Love those 20-inch diamond cut alloy wheels with the black accents. Like that cut in the bodywork. Sexy profile. The long deck for the Roadster. That red roof is beautiful too. Great contrast to the silver. It's a spirit silver. It's like a $7,600 paint job. Like it. And then now we get to the back. And this is the business end of the Aston Martin Vantage Roadster or Coupe, in my opinion, because it's sort of like, I think it's two cars, right? Above that line, it's a dinner party. It's so elegant. The integrated ducktail spoiler, beautiful. And then just sort of below that, it's a cage fight. There's so much going on. The diffuser sticks out so much. All the different scoops and cuts and angles and hole punches and quad exhaust ports. It's intense, and I love it. But the styling of this Vantage Roadster is fantastic. Now we're gonna look at the interior. To get inside, you press on this part of the door handle so the back pops out, and then to open it, it requires no effort at all. And like all Aston Martins, it opens at an upward angle, so functionally it's cool because it clears curbs, and aesthetically it's cool just because it doesn't look like your average doors. Nor does this cabin, look at this, covered all throughout in leather. Not just leather, like really good high quality leather. Love this red contrast stitching, the design of the perforations on the seats, the red embossed Aston Martin wings. That's one of $47,000 of options in this cabin, bringing the price up from $150,000 to $197,000. Look at the steering wheel, the squared off design, so cool. These giant, absolutely giant aluminum shift paddles on the back of the wheel. Let's hop inside. I love this housing for the gauges as well. It's so 3D, and I'm getting Batman vibes from it just coming out at you. Your tachometer is going to be right there. This is a reconfigurable digital gauge. This one is not. But then the tech kind of just goes downhill from here because we're running old Mercedes-Benz Command technology, which means this is not a touchscreen, and it doesn't have Apple CarPlay, and it doesn't have Android Auto. Yeah, it's a bit of a letdown, but the rest of the cabin design is so cool. These look like goggles to me for the air vents. A lot of buttons, but it's integrated really well. All of your drive select controls are here. A bunch of other redundant buttons there. Leather for the controller, your seat controls, all of this red stitched accent. So nice. So nice. Okay, it's time to go drive it. All right, let's get moving. So to start up the Vantage, we're going to tap the engine start-stop button, but you can do it one of two ways. You can either just put your foot on the brake and tap it once for a normal start, or you can press and hold it and it will quell the exhaust noise. So if you want to start up early morning, you've got neighbors around, but that's clearly not our situation. So we're just going to do a normal start. Yes, that 4-liter twin-turbo V8 music. What a song for your morning. All right, now we're going to tap reverse. First of all, we're not going to need that. Tap reverse here on the dash. That's going to bring up your bird's eye view. Parking sensors in this car are very excitable, even if you're not near an actual obstacle. So I'm going to turn this off immediately. And here we have the bird's eye view and then 180 degrees. If I press once on this, now it calls it a 360 view, but it's actually just a wide angle rear view, and then it will give us a wide angle front when we go to drive. So let's back it up. Tap the drive button, and now we can see the front angle view, nice and low. So if you're worried about scraping that gorgeous chin, you can feel more confident. I always love the turn signal sound in Aston Martin vehicles. It's not at all annoying. Turn signals in certain cars, I don't know why, but Dodge vehicles just come to mind. Just this really loud, really obnoxious noise. And this car, like, sounds like a heartbeat. And we are, of course, starting with the top off. The sun's coming out now amidst the clouds. So we're going to enjoy it in our Roadster automobile. A couple stoplights between here and the highway, but that's going to give us some low speed tests for ride quality. How is the wind buffeting it at low speeds as well? And the volume in the most modest powertrain on the right and suspension settings in the Vantage Roadster. So sport for both, and sport sounds like we've already stepped it up one from a Comfort or an Aston Martin's big Grand Touring mode, but the Vantage Roadster and Vantage Coupe only have sport. So it's Sport, Sport Plus, and Track, not like in the DB11 or DBS GT, then Sport, Sport Plus, and then Track. You just have Sport, indicating the intentions of this vehicle just to be enjoyed perhaps a bit more than a traditional Grand Touring automobile. And I am enjoying it. The ride quality in the sport suspension setting is just excellent. And this is me coming out of the new Mercedes-Benz S-Class, which is just a pillow on wheels. The ride quality here is very, very good. Going over something like that, don't worry, I did that intentionally. These real firm bumps in the road, you feel them, but in no way are they really disruptive to your elegant ride quality. But the startup is almost worth having the start-stop system on, because every time it starts up, you get the nice low-end burble from that exhaust. So here, turns itself off, and you're chilling. But I don't want that anymore, so we're turning that system off. But you hear it when it starts up. It's just a nice little burble in your ears. We are going to be assessing the 4-liter twin-turbo V8 that makes 503 horsepower and 505 pound-feet of torque, connected to that 8-speed automatic gearbox and sending power to just the rear wheels. Now, as we get onto the highway here, I'm going to raise the convertible top, which is a process that is done so quickly, but must be done below 31 miles per hour. At the speeds we were just doing, the wind buffeting is almost non-existent, but we will hear it again when we get off the highway. But I'm going to raise the top, so you press forward on this button, and the top comes up. And just like that, we're done. Super, super quick transition process. We're gonna pop on the highway here, and as we do so, I'm gonna change it up and go to Sport Plus on the powertrain settings. We can still leave the suspension in its standard sport setting. And I'll put my foot down. Now that was the part where the car did skip a little bit, and so the power cut out for a second because the traction was not available. But that music is so good. And even in Sport Plus, it's just gonna hold that gear. And as I enter the highway here and get over to the proper lane, I'm gonna just pull on the paddle, and that's gonna take me into manual mode. And these downshifts are quick. The shifts are very quick indeed. I will say, with the top up, your blind spot right there is fairly significant, so just keep that in mind. Oh. So much power. And the throttle response in Sport Plus is that much sharper, so much sharper. Where I'm kicking in at 4,000 RPM, or now 5,000 RPM in third gear, zero delay from those turbochargers. The boost is already built for me. And then when you're done using the manual mode, you just hold the right paddle and it's going to take you back to auto mode, or D. Now if you didn't want to do that and you wanted to press the D on the drive selector, you could, and that would be fine. And now just cruising on the highway with the top up, it's pretty darn quiet in here. There's a bit of wind noise that kind of seeps in right near the top level, but it's not bad at all. Really very modest. And I will say, that exhaust noise, it's at low speeds, when it's just low idle burbling, I hear the AMG in that. But as it gets to the upper part of the rev range, it really changes and it becomes much more exotic and appropriate for an Aston Martin vehicle. I do appreciate that. It's not just an AMG soundtrack. And I love the burbles. So pleasing. All right, let's go back to sport here. And now, this is a fairly smooth road, but I just want to see what happens as we go into a firmer suspension setting. So now we're in Sport Plus. Let's see that there on the digital display. And without anyone to my right, I'm just going to lean into the lane markings. So you perhaps hear them a bit more, but inside the cabin, I'm not feeling them from the seat of my pants that much more. And just for science, I'm gonna now go into track mode. I do have someone on my right, so I don't want to scare them. But I'll just naturally change lanes. Do you see we have blind spot monitoring in this vehicle? That is your only safety feature. We do not have, well, not your only safety feature, you do have airbags. But we don't have adaptive cruise control or lane keep assist or any of those active driving aids. You just have blind spot monitoring, which again, with the top up, is very much appreciated. And now let's lower that top. Let's see how quick that process is. Keep it under 31. Boom, and we're done. Raise up these windows so we don't get too much wind buffeting. And now the speed limit is higher on this road, so we'll be able to go faster. I am in track suspension mode, and I just wanted to do that just to see. This is a very smooth road, and track has made it as if we're driving in Michigan. You can feel every little bump and every undulation. Is yeah, it's so fun. That is for track duty, okay? We're not gonna even touch that anymore. All right, now we're at 50 miles an hour, and there's a bit more turbulent air entering this cabin. We do have this partition between myself and that passenger seat, and that's helping quell some of the fast-moving air inside the cabin. But I mostly feel it at the top of my head, and that's sort of what you want with a convertible. The wind in your hair, if you are fortunate enough to have hair. I just can't get over how good the ride quality is in this car. I think I just expected so much worse, because it is the entry point into Aston Martin. I don't know, that maybe the suspension wouldn't have been as well sorted as something like the DB11, or that because it is the Vantage and it is more of a pure sports car, that it wouldn't be able to do this classic convertible luxury as well. But it's blowing me away with how comfortable it is as a daily driver. And when you are in sport mode, the ease at which the throttle responds to your tip in makes it so it doesn't feel frenetic in any way. It doesn't feel like it wants to be pressed all the time. It wants to adapt to your driving style. That's what it wants to do. And while the top is down, I feel like I must remark at how much attention this vehicle gets. That was another thing that very much surprised me, the suspension and the attention. This car is like, I mean, I realize it competes with the Porsche 911 Carrera S and the Jaguar F-Type R convertible, but those two vehicles seem like a dime a dozen in comparison to a Vantage. You just don't see these that often, and it shows in the way that people just look at this car. One, it's just a striking vehicle, but two, the rarity of it by comparison to its main competitors make it that it's just an occasion piece, and it does draw attention. So if you want to stand out from the crowd, this is the right vehicle for you, that's for sure. Now as we get up here, we're going to enter into some more fun curvies, and so we're going to kick it up into Sport Plus on the suspension, and then into Track on the powertrain. This is actually great timing here, because after I've gone into Track, if I wanted to do the absolute quickest acceleration here, you can use launch control. So what I need to do there is to hold the traction control button for 4 seconds. Boom, and that turns off. And traction control isn't turned off completely. It turned off the electronic stability program for the vehicle, but there still is something that is mitigating complete wheel spin, especially in launch control mode. So from here, you're just going to hold your foot hard on the brake, give it full gas, and then let go of the brake, and it's going to do its best to put the power down to just the rear wheels. And this is where having all-wheel drive would be certainly of benefit, but we do not have that. So we're just going to do launch control. Active, let go, and away we go. Oh, and that noise is fantastic. Brakes are sensational, hard on those, hauling the vehicle down. The transmission shifts quickly, not having to use the paddles here. So in addition to the wow factor of this car, aesthetically, you have that AMG engine, which is so profound an engine. Each application and all the AMG products have tried it in, and here in the Vantage and in the DB11 V8 that I drove, it's just such a wonderful engine. So smooth, zero delay, and in the variety of ways you can tune the exhaust. Such a good sound. When a person's coming into my lane, I'm worried. So you have that engine, you have the wow factor, you have the comforts of this cabin. This seat is remarkably comfortable. Again, even though we don't have a GT setting for powertrain or suspension, you definitely have a GT ride quality and GT comforts, because I just can't get over how well this seat fits me ergonomically. And this cabin just feels so much more special than something like an F-Type or something like a 911. The leather in all the places, the design details, the goggles, That's how I see these air vents. They look like goggles to me. It's just that much more special. The steering wheel, the feel of it, these massive paddles. I am a fan of this car.